Hello everyone, and in this video we will build a weather application using React.js and Tailwind CSS. So let's open our terminal and write the following command: npm create vid at latest. And I also write dot in the end so that everything will be installed inside this folder without the necessity to create some more folders or subfolders. Here let's choose React, then JavaScript. Now we need to say npm install. Now we need to connect Tailwind CSS to our project, so let's do it. To do that, we need to open an official website of Tailwind CSS, and here we need to click Get Started. Then we need to copy this line and paste it in our terminal. Okay, now we need to make some changes in our vid.config file. We need to copy this line. So we need to put it here. And inside plugins, right next to React, we need to write Tailwind CSS and save this file. Now we need to copy this line, and inside source folder, we can find index.css file and delete everything here and put this import Tailwind CSS. Okay, and we also need to install Axios. We also need to install Axios to be able to make API requests to fetch the weather data. And now we finally can say npm run dev. Here we go. Now we can get rid of some unnecessary files such as app.css, and we can also remove this boilerplate code and just create a div. Okay. We can also delete all of these. And inside index.html, we can change this title. We can say React Weather App. It isn't necessary, but I like doing it. Okay. Now we are ready to start. Now I will just split my screen so that you'll be able to see everything. Okay. First, we will make a layout, and then we will make API requests to fetch data. Okay, so we need to create a container. So let's say this div will be a container. We need to say min height will be screen. Then let's say that it will be flex. So all the elements inside this div, we will say that we will apply these styles to them. Flex will be col, items will be center, and let's say justify also will be center. And for now, let's say that our background color will be blue 100. Okay, now we can create h1 tag. So let's do it. And inside, let's say weather app. So let's save it. And as you can see, it's right here in the center, thanks to these flex styles and thanks to the fact that this div takes up the whole height. So that's why it's in the center. So let's add some styles to this h1 tag. Let's say that text will be 3XL. Font will be bold. Let's say that text will be center. So let's save it. Okay, here it is. Now we can wrap this h1 tag inside of its own container. So let's do it. So let's create one more div. So to this div, let's apply the following styles. Let's say that background color will be black, but with some opacity. Then let's say that text will be white. rounded will be large. So it will be border radius, it will be 8 pixels. So let's save it. As you can see, here it is. Let's also add some shadow. It will be large. Then let's add padding 8. It will be from all sides. Let's say that max width will be medium, which is 448 pixels. Let's say that width will be full. Okay, let's save it. And as you can see, here it is. So now we need to create a search bar. So there, in that search bar, we will type a city name, and based on that city, we will fetch the related weather. So we need to create a new component. For that, inside this source folder, we can create a new folder called components. And here we can create a search bar component. Okay. So search bar component will represent a form. But first of all, let's import this search bar component inside this app.jsx file. So right under this h1 tag, we can render it. And as you can see, here it is. So let's add some margin to our title. Okay, so let's get back to this search bar component. And here we can create a form. It will be semantically correct. And inside this form, we can create an input tag. Its type will be text. For placeholder, let's say enter city name. Okay, here it is. So we need to create a state for the value that we're gonna write in this input. So let's create a state. We need to say city, set city. We need to say use state, and by default it will be an empty string. So here in this input tag, we can say that value will be city, and on change we can get access to this event object, and then we can say set city event object dot target dot value. So what we write in this input field will be set to this city state. So let's save it. Let's add some styles to this input tag. Let's say class name. Let's add some padding, which will be 2. Then border. And let's say that border will be gray 300. Let's say that it will be rounded, large. And let's say that outline will be none, because by default there is an outline. Okay, now it's better. And under this input tag, we can create a button. So its type will be submit. And here we can write search. So let's save it. As you can see, it's right here. So let's add some styles to it as well. Let's say that background color will be blue 500. Let's add some border and cursor pointer. So here it is. So let's keep styling it. Let's say that padding will be 2 as well. Then on hover, let's make its background color to be a bit darker. It will be 600. Okay, here it is. Okay, and now in order to stretch this input, we can first of all come to this form tag and say flex, and then here to this input tag we can say flex1. So as you can see, it is stretched, so it is like one of the many approaches that we can use in order to make this input tag to take more space. Okay, now we can get rid of these borders. So for that, we can say that for this input tag, border right will be none, like will be 0. As you can see, it isn't here. And for this button, we can say border left will be 0. Okay, and here we just say that it will be rounded large, but we can say that it will be rounded on left radiuses, like it will be rounded only on top left and bottom left. So let's save it, and now it looks much better. And for this button, we can also say that it will be rounded on the right side. So if we hover over, we can see that this border radius, which is 8 pixels, will be applied to this top right and bottom right sides. So let's save it. And as you can see, now we have a good looking search bar. Okay, so let's try to type a city. Okay, it looks good. So now we can get back to this app.jsx component and we can create some states that we will need. So let's create a state called weather, and let's say it will be set weather. So by default it will be null. Then we can create a state for loading, because it will take some time before we get back the data from the server. So we can create a state for loading. So by default it will be false, and in case of some errors we can also handle that case. We can create a state for that. So let's say error, and it will be empty string by default. So let's save it. So now it's time to get our API key. To do that, we need to open OpenWeatherMap website. So let's do it. So here you can click this API tab, and then you need to sign up to use an API. I have already done it, and I think it isn't really difficult. So just follow all the steps, and then you will have your API key. Then just copy it and put it in your application. Okay, I think that it's pretty easy and you'll be able to do it yourself. Okay, so let's get back. So once you have copied your API key, you can create a new file in the root of your project called env. You need to say .env, and inside you can create a variable called with API key equal to, and then here you can paste your API key. So once you did it, make sure that you include this .env file inside this gitignore file, so that it won't be pushed to the GitHub repository. Okay, in terms of safety, it's a good practice to include this env file inside this gitignore file, because your env file usually stores very sensitive information. Okay, now we can get access to our key by saying API key, and here, since we use with, we can say import dot meta dot env, and then we need to say with API key. It is the name of the variable that I created inside .env file. So here, by doing this, we get access to our API key. Now we need an URL. By using it, we will be able to make requests. So let's say API URL, and here I will paste the URL that we need. So here it is. So let's save it. Okay. Now we have everything we need to make requests. Okay. So let's create a function that will fetch weather. So let's say fetch weather. It will be asynchronous. And yes, we shouldn't forget to import Axios because we'll be using Axios. So let's import Axios from Axios. Okay. Now we can say, so when we call this function, loading will be true because it's sensible, right? We use this function. It means that it will take some time for this function to proceed. So it means that loading will be true. And if there were some errors, all the errors should be gone. Because we make a new request. And if there were some errors should be gone. I think it's clear. And here we can say const URL. And here we can use backsticks. And here we need to provide our API URL. Then our query. And inside these curly braces, we need to provide a city. But as you can see, this city doesn't exist anywhere yet. But we created it inside this search bar function. So what's gonna happen is that in the very near future, we're gonna take this fetch weather function and send it to this search bar function. And inside that search bar function, on submit, we will pass the value, we will pass the city which our user types here. So we will pass the city from this search bar component to this component using this function. As I have already said, we will pass down this function in the search bar. So it means that from this search bar component, inside this component, we will take a city. So we can say city. Okay, I think it's clear. I write city because from this search bar component, we will send it to this component using this function. Okay, so our query will be city, and then we need to write some default values. So I will just type them. And for the app ID, we will write our key. So that's it. Our URL is ready. So here we provide this API URL, which is common for everyone. Then in this query, we write the city. And then for our app ID, we provide our key. And here we can say const response. And then we need to say await Axios dot get. And here we provide our URL. And then we can console log response.data. So basically, we will console log the data that we have after this response. Okay. And then we can say set weather response.data. So as I have already said, after we make this response, we get some data, and we take that data from this response and set it to this weather state. Okay, and in case of any errors, we can say that, we can say if error response, if it is true and its status is 404, it means that city wasn't found. So we need to say set error city not found. Please try again. Else we can say set error and error occurred. Please try again later. And then, like, if we deal with an error, we can reset our weather. We can set it back to null. So let's save it. Okay. So now we can take this fetch weather function and send it to this search bar component. Okay. And inside this search bar, we need to get access to it by saying fetch weather. And here we can create a function. We need to say handle submit. So we need to prevent the default behavior when after submitting our page refreshes. So to prevent it, we can say prevent default. So our page will not be refreshed. Then we need to say if city. We can fetch. So if city is true, we can take this city and send it to this fetch weather function. And then we can reset our state by saying set city to be an empty string. And also, in case if I type something like this, London and then space, 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 we can remove these spaces by saying .trim. So as you can see, this function removes the leading and trailing white space and line terminator characters from a string. I think it's a good practice. So we need to take this function and on submit, we need to call this function. So let's save it. Okay, so now if I click this button, I will have information about weather in London. But before doing that, I want to open my DevTools. So we will see how it will look. So now I will click search. And as you can see, we have some data. So let's see what we have. Here we have name, temperature, clouds, visibility, time zone, wind, feels like, and so on. Here we also have information about country, about sunrise and sunset, humidity, pressure, and so on. It means that we have done everything correctly so far. And now, having this information, we can display the data. We can correctly display the data. So let's do it. For that, we need to create a new component called weather card. So let's do it. Okay, so inside this app.jsx file, we can render it. But we need to show this weather card only if weather is true. It makes sense, right? So if weather is true, we will display this weather card. Right now, our state has that information about the weather in London. That's why we see this text. If I refresh the page, you see that we no longer see it, because when I refresh the page, our state is null again. So that's it. And also inside this weather card, we need to pass this weather state, which has all the information about weather that we need. So let's save it. Okay, and inside this weather card, we need to destructure it by saying weather. So let's take care of this component. So inside this div, I will create h2 tag. I will say weather.name. Yes, it was like that. I will say weather.name. Now, if I save, we don't see anything. But if I write London again and click search, as you can see, its name is London. So by saying weather.name, we can display its name. Okay. Now I will open my DevTools again. And let's see what else we have. We can also display the info about country. So we can say that country will be Great Britain. So let's write a comma, and right next to it we can say weather.sys.country. And as you can see, we show this Great Britain. Now, under this h2 tag, I can create a div, and inside that div, I can show a related image, an image which matches the current weather. So if it's sunny, an image will be like a sun. If it's raining, an image will be like a rain. To do that, I'll just paste a link that we need. Okay, so let me do it. So here it is. Now I will save it. And as you can see, we see an image of a sun. And you can also get access to all my code by using the link in the description. Okay. And for this alternative option, we can say weather.weather, and here we need to have, and here we should have a description. So it is here. As you can see, it says clear sky. So we can say weather.weather. So here we can say weather.weather. Then we need to take the first element. Then we can get access to the description. So let's save it. We will not see it because this alternative text will be displayed only if our image will not be shown for some reasons. Okay. Now I think that we can set sizes for this image. So let's add some classes to our image. So let's say that width will be 16 and height will be 16. So let's save it. And now it is smaller. Okay. Now we can display the temperature. So we can create a p tag, and inside we can display the temperature. It is right here. So we can say weather.main.temp. So it is here, but we need to round this temperature. To do that, we can say math.round function, and here we can say weather.main.temp. So let's save it. As you can see, it is 13. So if we hover over, it says that this function returns a supplied numeric expression rounded to the nearest integer. The value to be rounded to the nearest integer. Now we can add some classes to it. We can see that its size will be 4XL. And font will be bold. Okay. And we can also add a sign like it is in Celsius. So I will just paste that sign and we can put it right here. So let's save it. And as you can see, now we know that it's in Celsius. Okay. Here under this div, we can create one more p tag. And here we can say, we can write weather description. So we need to say weather dot weather first element and description. So let's save it. And as you can see, it says clear sky. So let's add some classes. Let's say that text will be center. Then let's say that text will be gray 400, and let's say that it will be capitalized. Okay. And for this div, we can also add some classes. So let's say that it will be flex, justify will be center, and items will be center. Okay. And let's also add some margin from top. And for this h2 tag, we can also add some classes. So let's do it. Let's say that text will be 2XL, font will be semi-bold, and text will be center. Okay. And for this div, for this container, let's say that margin top will be 6. Okay. Now it looks much better. So just for fun, let's write another city here. Let's say it will be New York. And let's click this button. As you can see, here we have different information. It is US, it is 7 Celsius, and it says overcast clouds. Okay. Now we can create a div which will have an info about humidity, wind, pressure, and so on. So we can create a div, and inside that div, we can create one more div, and inside this div, we can create a p tag, and let's say that it will be for humidity. And right under this text, we can create one more tag. And here we can display the actual humidity by saying weather.main.humidity. So let's make sure that I am right. Yes. So let's save it. And it is here. So we need to do the same for wind. But we don't see wind because we need to say weather.wind.speed. Okay, weather.wind.speed. Okay, wind will be in this metric. Okay, and our humidity will be in this matrix. Okay, so now we need to display an info about pressure, and it will be pressure, and here it will be in this matrix, and info about feels like. So for that, we will also round it, so we can come here and copy it, paste it here, and say feels like. So we need to remove this. Okay, so let's save it. Okay, now we need to display it in a beautiful way. For that, we need to find a div which holds all these divs. So, and for this div, we can say that it will be grid, and grid will be, so this grid will have 2 columns, and let's say that gap will be 4, and let's add some margin from top. Let's say it will be 6. Okay, now it's much better. Now we can style this div, for example. So let's say that text will be center. Okay, and for humidity, for this p tag, let's say that text will be gray 400. Okay, and let's say that for the second p tag, font will be bold. Okay, and we just need to copy the styles and apply it to every div here. So I'll just quickly do it. So let's save it. And as you can see, we have a good looking layout. So let's test it by writing another city. For example, let's say it will be Tokyo. And as you can see, we have the correct info. So, and we also need to test some cases where we will encounter some errors. Okay, we shouldn't forget about that as well. And also we need to deal with loading. Okay, so to do that, we can say the following. So if loading is true, we can say that we will display the following information. So we will show this p tag, and inside we will say loading and these 3 dots. And for the classes, we can say that it will be, text will be center, and margin from top will be 4. So let's save it. Let's try to type something. Let's say that it will be Oslo. So let's click this button, and we still see this loading, but it should be gone by this time. So let's find out why. So here, when we fetch weather, we say that it will be true, but we need to have a situation where we will set loading to false. And for that we can say finally, and only then we can say set loading to be false. So let's save it. Now I will try to type another city. So let's say it will be Los Angeles. And now we no longer see this loading text. We see it just for milliseconds, and then it goes away. So let's try one more time. Let's say Madrid. And as you can see, loading just comes for milliseconds and then just disappears. Okay, and now we need to handle a situation when a user will type something like this, and we can say for sure that such city doesn't exist. So we need to show an error. For that, after this loading, we can say the following. We can say if error is true, then we can create a p tag, and we can say we can just display the error state. Okay, we will see the content of our error state. For the classes, let's say that text will be red 500. It will also be center, and let's say margin from top will be 4. And as you can see, city not found. Please try again. Now let's write a city which exists. And as you can see, we no longer see that error, but if we type something like this, we see that error. And now one of the most interesting things that we have left to do is to make a background that will be a video. So let's do it. I already prepared a video. So inside source folder, I have this video. And under this div, I can create a video tag. And here I can say source. And for the source, I need to write a path to my video. But first of all, let's import it. So I will say import video. And then my path to the video. Okay, we can take this video and put it here. And then we can say that the type will be video/mp4. And also for the video tag, we can set some attributes. We can say that it will be autoplay, then it will be loop, so it means that the video will play endlessly, and it will be muted. So let's save it. And as you can see, we have this video here. But we can already say that the video will be absolute. And it means that we should find a parent which will be relative. So we can already say that this div will be a relative parent. So let's say relative, and let's also say that overflow will be hidden. And for the video tag, we can say that its position will be absolute, top will be 0, left will be 0. Let's say width will be full, height will be full. And let's say that object fit will be cover. So let's save it. And now we have our video. But we don't see our container which showed the weather data. To actually display it on the page, we need to set some z index to it. So let's say that z index will be 10. And now we have it. We can change this opacity to 70, for example. Okay. It looks good now. And now if you think that our video, our background video is too bright, we can come here and create one more div. And here we can say that its position also will be absolute, top will be 0, left will be 0, width will be full, height will be full, and let's say that background color will be black with some opacity, and let's say that z index will be 1. So as you can see, now our background color is a bit darker. So you can adjust this value according to your needs. And now, the last but not least, if a user's browser doesn't support this video tag, we can say your browser doesn't support the video tag. So if a user's browser doesn't support the video tag, we can display it, but it isn't necessary, I think. Okay, so if you find this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate that. Thank you.